Hi, my name is Betty Sue, and today we're going to be talking about Taylor Swift versus Spotify. Let's get started. So, in 2014, Taylor Swift debuted her fifth album, 1989. This album certainly made a lot of sparks fly when Swift and her record label, Big Machine, told Spotify that they wanted the customers who are subscribed to Spotify Premium only have access to her new album. But let's take a step back to December to discuss how Spotify works. Spotify has two tiers for its customers. The first is a subscription based plan where customers pay a certain monthly price to have access to Spotify with no ad breaks and more features. The second tier is a free plan supported by ads in between songs. When it comes to royalties, artists make a gold rush off of paying subscribers compared to the members that are using the accessible version of Spotify. Swift and Big Machine's request to have her music exclusively for subscribers um, was denied by Spotify. This created some bad blood between Swift and Spotify. Some could say that Spotify's decline was mean. However, Big Machine was fearless with their next move. Due to that denial, Big Machine swiftly removed Taylor's entire discography from Spotify. This move was better than revenge because it severely impacted Spotify's ability to provide music to its new listeners. Spotify attempted to make amends by launching social media campaign to convince Swifties to entice Taylor to come back on the streaming site. It seems like Taylor Swift and Spotify are never getting back together, like ever. Fortunately, everything had changed when Spotify revised its business model to raise the royalty rates to a level that could get Taylor Swift to stay. So, moving on to each party's underlying interests. In this case study, Taylor's underlying interest was to have more control over her music during an era where she didn't. At the time, her contract with Big Machine didn't allow her to own the recording rights to her music. Even though she couldn't control that aspect of her music, she could control where that music was being streamed and ensure that she was receiving money for it. Spotify's interest in this case study was to uphold its business model. Spotify's two-tier system allows customers to still have the ability to discover new music for free with the support of ad breaks or with a monthly subscription. However, it seems like their business model is slightly flawed in the sense that artists themselves receive very little per stream, and that rate is even lower for streams from the ad-supported customers. When it comes to their bargaining positions, Taylor's bargaining position in this case was to have her music accessible for the subscribed members only. Taylor's reasoning behind this is her opinion on the value of music. She wrote in an article on the Wall Street Journal stating that she believes music should not be free. She views that music as a form of valuable art and says that valuable things should be paid for. Spotify's position in this case study is to make music accessible to everyone, so they can't go through with Taylor's proposal because it goes against the company's values. Now we're going to be talking about three additional concepts. The first one is going to be BATNAs. In this case study, Taylor Swift and her record label used a BATNA after Spotify declined their request. Taylor's Taylor Swift contracted other music streaming platforms like iTunes with this request. iTunes is a platform for Apple users to purchase their favorite movies, music, and TV shows. And based on how iTunes has its business model, they were able to meet Taylor's demands. The next additional concept is neutral criteria. So, the neutral criteria for this case study would be the industry standards for music royalties. In the case of Swift not getting enough royalties from free customers, it applies to all artists on Spotify. So, Spotify cannot fulfill Taylor's request without considering the other artists in her industry. For this to be a fair negotiation for both Swift and Spotify cannot show favoritism towards Taylor by having her new album only for paying customers. And the last additional concept would be communication styles. In this case, we can see that Taylor and her team are leading with the commander type Commander type communication style. They are firm with how they feel during the negotiation, and while that shows strong signs of a strong leader, the commander type can also be very my way or the highway, and we can definitely see that from Taylor and her team when they pulled out from Spotify. So, what went well during the negotiation? I think what went well during the negotiation was Spotify's willingness to revise its business model so that Taylor could return to the platform and get higher royalties while still following their original business model structure. This new policy applies to not only Taylor but the other artists on Spotify as well. This situation seems to be a win for Taylor, Spotify, other artists, and the listeners. Um, let's talk about what went bad during the negotiation. I think what went bad during this negotiation was how reactive Taylor was. After their proposal. So rather than spending a little bit longer working out alternative negotiations with Spotify, I think they pulled out a little too quickly, which caused a massive hit for Spotify and her fans who don't have the luxury of paying for music. I'm sure the final agreement would have come up sooner if they had spent a little bit longer brainstorming different ideas. Um, and in the case of Taylor Swift versus Spotify, the agreement was for Taylor Swift to come back on the platform for both consumer tiers with higher royalties. I think this agreement fostered a long-term relationship because her music is still on Spotify. I think this agreement created an opportunity for Taylor as well as other artists to never settle for less and to see the value in their art. Thank you for watching.